Hey y'all, Sarah Ulmer here for Y'all Politics. We are joined today by Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, who's going to talk to us a little bit about how DC is handling the current state of the pandemic. Senator, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me in our new world.
Absolutely. It's definitely a very new and strange normal that we're in right now. Talk to me a little bit first about the newest COVID-19 bill that was signed last Friday, and kind of what some of that entails. I know a lot of people are interested to know kind of what this second round of legislation is looking like.
Yeah, well, mainly, it's the what we call the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, and then the Healthcare Enhancement Act.
Right.
And as you know, everybody has to understand government can't solve all these problems, but we can certainly come up with the relief programs to address what we think is appropriate at the time. And it was, $310 billion for SBA. And some of the rural hospitals, there were just some unintentional things that they were left out in part of the first bill, and we've got 75 billion more for the hospitals, and 62 billion for SBA, because when these small businesses, started applying, that deplenished so fast. And
Right.
we had the 25 billion for more COVID relief, testing and things like that to look after. So, you know, we think that we did come up with a good third phase, and we think that we can only appropriate it. We don't actually carry out the process. We don't implement the programs. And when we find ourselves in such a condition that we're in right now, it is so unprecedented, Sarah.
Right.
So at the state level to implement things, at the federal agencies to implement things, there's going to be issues. But overall, of what we have had to deal with and the things, to put these resources out there to save jobs and small businesses and to provide the hospitals with the things that they needed, it has done pretty good. It really,
Right.
but you know, it's just a huge challenge.
I mean, I feel like you said this is unprecedented. Everyone is just kind of scrambling, trying to figure out how do we deal with, we're 2 months or so into this for some areas, and everybody's kind of just trying to figure out how do we function before we're allowed to reopen. What does that look like? And you're right, the government can't fix everything, but I know that lots of people are grateful for, this new round of funding that's coming in. Are there any specifics in that new bill that are just for Mississippi, or that you think are going to be really impactful for the state of Mississippi?
Well, of course, Mississippians are going to benefit from the added extra dollars that were put into there. And like I said, it was just to put the resources where they're most needed, and every state is in the same condition. I mean, and yes, Mississippi will definitely, especially the rural hospitals and rural healthcare centers that we had to dive in really quickly and address, they would definitely benefit from that. But Mississippi is so resilient, and I could not be prouder of our state. I mean, when we had UMMC to come up with ventilators that they came and that would actually work if we had to have them for our last resorts.
Mm-hmm.
USM, Hattiesburg Clinic, Forest General coming up with their own testing kits, just was amazing. Mississippi State, when they started transforming the ventilators that were portable into electric, I assure you, there's been a lot of conversation about how Mississippi has not looked to the government 100% for what they thought they had to have. And
Mm-hmm.
we pulled ourselves up by our own bootstraps, so to speak. And we got very motivated, activated very quickly in the process. And, I was very proud of the state and where we are. This has been obviously the most difficult time. And the legislation, the CARES Act, it's definitely not perfect, but it it is.
We were talking about how this has impacted farmers. Senator Hyde-Smith, can you kind of speak a little bit to how farmers are being impacted by the current state of the pandemic?
Oh, no doubt. Well, with the packing plant that had to be closed we're not processing, our harvest the way that we were prior to this, but because so many employees were being tested positive and getting sick, some of the, that they had to close. And it's interrupted the food chain, as obviously this is, that will happen. But we're monitoring how USDA implements the CARE Act relief for agriculture. And right now there's approximately $16 billion in direct payments to producers, and that's beef, pork, dairy, produce, let's say row crop producers that, were obviously harmed by this market interruption. But there's $3 billion to purchase excess meat, dairy, fresh products, and other things, possibly catfish, to support different entities. So the farmers are definitely taking a hit on this. But the most important thing is we've got to work out an avenue wide enough to continue the food supply that, the grocery stores will still have, as little interruption as possible. It's when, everyone goes to obviously buy food for their family, that it will be there. And I think you may see a little higher prices, possibly in some meat products, but I think that, we're going to be fine as far as having the supply there to meet the demand.
The president has released his phase-in plan over the last week on how states should plan to kind of resume activity. What are you hearing as far as the realistic timeline of reopening the economy? Or is there conversation about that for individual states, or is there kind of an overall idea that there's a hope for, hey, this date will have everything open, or things will start to be looking back to normal?
Well, obviously it is time to focus on safely opening and restarting the economy. And we will be back together next Monday. We're going into session in D.C. on Monday. We're trying to get flights to get us there. We're having to fly in several different directions to actually get to D.C. It's a little difficult challenge there. But that's when we will address that, and I've said all along, the only thing worse than going through this is going through it twice. And we safely open this economy. We've got to safely restart the businesses. And, we're learning new normals. The social distancing, it is help the flattening the curve. It is helping to do that. And we've got to continue that. But our economy, we were in a really good position before the coronavirus. And I think that Mississippi and the country as a whole is ready to rebound strongly. I really do. There are obviously a lot of issues, complexities to getting people safely back to work, school, church. But, we have to rejuvenate our economy in a safe manner. But the virus is going to be with us for a while. I was telling a group yesterday, it has not left. It's still there. We still have to take precautions. We still have to exercise these new things we've learned about our life. And, we don't need a one-size-fits-all approach to opening the country.
Right.
I think that Governor Tate Reeves is doing a great job at, having information-based decisions being made. And, we've just got to depend on our leaders to decide what might work best for our people and go from there. I know the governor's had a conference call with the president, and, that's pretty unusual. I think a precedent is that the president actually gets all the governors on a phone call as regular as he has. And, they do discuss the best practices, the things that have worked in different areas. And, we're going to step by step get on the other side of this. But I think we've made the best decisions we could with the information we've had. And, I still say that China is going to have to be held accountable for this. And, they only cover up the misinformation and those things. And, those are some of the things we'll talk about when we get back to D.C. But more importantly, looking on the programs, monitoring the programs, seeing the resources that have gone out the door already, how they're being implemented, and what needs to be changed, what needs to be tweaked, and what needs our attention to constantly stay on top of this, monitoring this till we get to the other side.
Right. You mentioned China being held accountable. What are your thoughts on the Attorney General Lynn Fitch filed a suit against China? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when something is caused by an act by a country that has been as devastating as this has been, obviously you look for those that are liable if they are there. And, a lot of other states are doing the exact same thing. That, first of all, if they've done it once, it can happen again if they are not held accountable. So I think the attorney generals throughout the country that are doing this are, they're looking out for the best interest of our citizens. And that is an avenue that we have to go down to see if there's any possible benefits that we could recover, financial benefits from litigation. So, I think it's prudent to look into that.
Right. And your thoughts on how the president has handled this situation? Obviously, the media has used its opportunities to either favor or criticize what the president has done. But, you're in the Senate, you're there, you've seen all the decisions and how it's been made. What are your thoughts on how the president has handled the pandemic since the beginning?
Well, there's no instruction manuals for handling something as unprecedented as the situation.
Right.
But I am confident that keeping out legislation in these bills, bailing out the U.S. Postal Service, the Green New Deal, those type things, sanctuary cities, I forget what else they were trying to put in there, that had to be handled. I think the president, really stepped up and said, this is nonsense, and helped us negotiate that. But I don't know how many people in that position, as sitting in the White House, that could have done a much better job than our president has done. I mean, he has been leading language. He has surrounded himself with people that they have worked 24/7, and how they've stood up under this pressure that they stood up under is pretty phenomenal for anyone. But I'm just glad that we have had him there to lead us through this, because he is a president that looks out for the economy, that has so many attributes and experiences that he is in a good position to help lead us through this. But as I said before, the government can't prevent or solve all the problems. But we have had a president that at every turn has led us in the direction that we are going to get to the other side. And I'm just continuing to play this because it's been beyond difficult. It's been difficult for the administration and the White House, for the members of Congress. But you've had people that no one panicked. We just said, okay, step one, get all the information we can get, gather the information. Let's go from here. Let's hash out, iron out the legislation. Let's get it passed. Let's get it voted on, and then get it implemented. And I assure you, we are all taking calls every day, helping as many people as we can possibly help with any situation, whether it's the Paycheck Protection Plan, how do I apply for unemployment. Our offices have been extremely busy, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, and that's the reason we're going to accomplish this goal.
Right. Well, Senator, I appreciate you speaking with us this morning and hanging through the technical difficulties. Good luck heading back to D.C., and we look forward to seeing what the next steps look like in this pandemic. Thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you. And we will be looking at phase 4, but we will look at it very, very closely and look at to see what needs reforms, and we'll have a chance to catch our breath and really examine things before it will be done very methodically, still in a stage 4. and very, very prudent, careful steps. So thank you for this opportunity, Sarah. Stay safe, and I just encourage everybody listening, we've got to continue these practices to keep our families safe. So I appreciate this time.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in today on Y'all Politics. You can find this full video here and on our website on y'allpolitics.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook to stay up to date with what's happening in the news around you. I'm Sarah Ulmer.